Hi everyone, it's Rigo here from Rigo Tech. Welcome to the first episode of learning to use Google Docs. And in this episode, we're going to learn the basics of using the Google Docs word processor for creating and formatting a document. So just going to learn all the very basics. This video is aimed for the complete beginner, someone who's never maybe used a word processing application before. And so we're going to learn how to do that in Google Docs, which is free for everyone to use. But to do that, we're going to need to create a Google account first. So if you already have a Google account, you can skip ahead. If you don't, then go to the google.com website. So go to Google's website. Then you'll need to click on sign in. Then it'll come to this page here. And then you want to go create account. And then you want to choose it for yourself. And then go through the process of entering your details. Click on next and follow the process through to create your Google account. Alright, so once you've done that, you'll come up to your home page. Alright, so once you've logged in, you should see over here it'll have like a letter that represents the beginning of your username, and if you click on that, you'll be able to see your Google account there. So to see all the documents you have in your Google account, you want to go to Google Drive. So you have access to Gmail now, so you'll have your own Gmail account that you can use for sending emails and stuff, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. So if you click on the Google Apps icon here and then go to Google Drive, that will take you into your Drive folder, and any documents you create in the Google Apps will appear in your Google Drive folder. Sweet. So the next thing is you need to get access to the sample document that we're going to use for learning about all the different things. Right, so if you go down to the description of this video, so click on the show more button, so down in the description area, and it tells you what the video will be covering. So we're going to be covering all these different things, and then there's a link to the Google document that we're going to use. So if you click on that link, it will take you to this document here. Now currently it will be linked to the document in my Google folder. So at the moment you can't edit it, you can't make any changes to it. Right, so you'll need to get a copy of the template document that we're going to be using to do the formatting with. So if you go down to the description of this video and click the show more button, it will take you to the description. It tells you what things we're going to cover in this video, and then it has a link to the actual document. So if you click on the link to that document, it will take you to here, and it will link to my document, so you don't get editing access to it. So if I try and type something in, it won't let me. It's just viewing only. So you're going to need to make a copy of that for yourself so that you can do and play around with the document as we work through the video. So what you need to do is go to the File menu. Let's go to File, then go to Make a Copy. So choose that, then give it a name. So maybe call it My Sample Resume Unformatted. The folder should be set to My Drive, which is your Google Drive that you will have created beforehand, or when you created your Google account, it would have been created for you. So just click on OK. That will then open that up. It creates a new tab. So this tab is the previous one, which is linked to my folder, so you can close that. And this tab is now a copy of that document in your Google folder. So you can check this by clicking on this icon here, which is Docs Home. So if you click on that, that takes you back to the documents home, and you can see that you now have one document, which is your sample resume, and you can double click on that, and that will open up your document again. So if you happen to be in Google, you can always get back to any of your documents by going up to the Google Apps icon, clicking Drive, and that will take you back into your Google Drive, and you can see all of your Google Drive documents in here. So again, if you double click on that, that will bring it up. Alright, so in this video we're going to go through changing the font. So the very basics of using a word processing piece of software. So we're going to be using Google Docs, obviously. So changing a font, changing the font size. We'll look at doing bold, italics, and underlining. We'll look at changing the color of your text. We'll look at using the undo and the redo functions of Google Docs. We'll look at the justification or alignment of your text, and also copy and pasting. So this is mainly for people that have never maybe used a word processing software before. So obviously if you have had some experience, you can probably skip this video. So those are the things I'll be covering. So if you know that kind of stuff, then you should maybe move on to the next video. But if you've never used any form of word processing software before, then let's go through the very basics of doing it. So we've got our document that is our sample resume for Anakin Skywalker. So the first thing we'll look at is how can we change the size of text and also the type of text or the font of the text. So if I put my cursor here at the beginning of Anakin Skywalker, and then if we change the size, you'll notice that nothing happens, because all it will happen is if you type from that position onwards, then it will actually be in the new size, right? So that just sets the font, and when you start typing, it sets the size, and then when you start typing, it'll be in that particular size. If you want to change the text size or font of something you've already got in your document, then you need to highlight the document first. So if you highlight the document, then if you click the plus, you can see that it starts to make the size go up. You can also click on the value 20 and you get some predefined sizes, or you can type into the box up here and you can put in a custom size like 23 and it will set it to that particular size. So why don't you pause the recording and do the same thing. So highlight the word Anakin Skywalker, just play around with the size setting, see what you come up with, choose the size that you like, and then just leave it at that particular size. Alright, welcome back to the video. So that we've learned how to change the size for typing a new text and changing the size for existing text. So then we want to look at how can we change the type of font. So again, if you put your cursor and don't select anything, if we go to the font setting, which is this one here, if you click on that, it drops down and shows you a list of some basic fonts that you can use, and you can always click on more fonts, and that will actually show you a whole bunch of Google fonts that you can choose from, and it's just got hundreds and hundreds of these fonts that you can actually use. We'll just use the basic ones. You can play around with different fonts later on if you want to. So again, if we choose a font like Comforter, again it doesn't change anything, but as we type from that point on, it will be in the new font. So again, we need to highlight everything and then choose the font that we want, and it will then change it to that font. If you want to change all of the font in your document to the new font, then you need to highlight everything. So you can either click and drag, and then drag all the way down to the bottom to highlight everything, or you can put your cursor at the very beginning, then scroll all the way down the bottom, then hold the shift key on your keyboard down and click, and then that will highlight everything from where you started to where you clicked. Cool. Or you can go Control A. If you're on a Mac, it'll be Command A probably. So Control A to select everything, and then we can change everything to our new font. So let's change it to Comforter. So why don't you do that yourself? So play around with the font settings, try out different fonts, see what kind of font you like, and make the whole document into that particular font. Okay, welcome back. So as you know, it'll keep your size settings even if you change the font. So it makes the font in the sizes that you've chosen. So the next thing I'm going to look at is how, so at the moment it looks quite small in the recording, all the text and stuff. So you might find that as you look at this document on your own computer, the text might be too small for you. So what you can do is we don't want to make the font bigger, because when you print it out, the font will be really huge. What we want to do is change the view size, which means it will zoom in or you can zoom out depending on what you like. So we can do that through the zoom setting here. So at the moment the zoom is 100%. So if you click on it, you can find the predefined values. You can only go up to a maximum of 200. You can't go more than that. So I choose 200. You can see it makes the everything bigger, but when you print it, it's still the normal size. It just changes the zoom setting. You can also click up the top and you can hit a custom size like 156%, and it will change the zoom setting to that. So just play around with the zoom sizes, see what kind of zoom setting you prefer, depending on what you have, what size your computer is. If you're on a laptop, you might need to zoom it a bit more. If you're on a desktop with a big monitor, maybe a bit less. It kind of just depends. Alright, so that's how we can change the zoom settings. So change that setting to a value that you actually prefer. Alright, so we've learned how to change the font, we've learned how to change the font size, and we've learned how to change the zoom setting. So what we want to do is, this is going to be the title of our sample resume for a person called Anakin Skywalker. And all of these text where it's all in capital letters are going to be headings in our resume. So we want to make the heading stand out a little bit, so we want to maybe make the text a bit bigger, and we can also look at making bold, italics and underlined and see what that kind of looks like. So if we highlight objective, so do the same thing on your one, and we want to make it a little bit bigger, so let's change the size to 24. That's a bit too big for a heading, I think. Let's change it to 18. Yeah, that's not too bad. Right, so go through and make all of your headings the same size as what you've chosen. Now you'll see that you have to do each one individually, but later on we're going to find a better way of doing this when we get to some of the more advanced videos. So we'll just keep it simple for now. Still more headings to go on the next page, so make sure you've gone through and done that yourself. So remember, you can actually double click on a word to highlight that word. If I double click this one, it only chooses the first word, but if you triple click, it highlights that whole line for you. So that's an easy way to highlight just a single word or a whole line. Sweet, so we'll just go through and set all of those. There we go. So we'll set all of our headings. Awesome. So let's have a look and play around with the bold, italic and underline settings just to see what they look like if you've never used them before. So if we choose the first heading here, if we make it bold, you can see that it makes the characters slightly thicker and fatter. We can do that with a normal word as well. Make that bold. You can see that it just appears a little bit darker and a little bit bigger than the text around it. So that's a good way to highlight something that you want someone to see. Cool. And then if you highlight the word again and unclick bold, or you can go Control B, that turns that off as well. So try playing around with the bold setting and see what it looks like. And we've done that. So let's have a look at the italic setting. So we choose italic or Control I. You can see that it kind of puts the text over on a slant. So that's a different way that you can make text stand out as well. So it kind of just depends on what you want it to look like. So we can make this italic as well. So it gives it a bit of a slant. And again, you can just click the italic button and it goes back to being normal, or you can go Control I. It does the same thing. And then if we choose underline, so let's choose Anakin Skywalker and do underline. You can see we get a line all the way across to underline that. We can highlight this whole paragraph here and go underline, and it underlines the whole thing. If we do a paragraph of multiple lines and we go underline, we can see that it just underlines every single line for us. Now to get rid of those, we would have to highlight it and click the underline button. But you can also use the undo command to undo something that you've done. So the undo command is this button here, or Control Z or Command Z if you're on a Mac. So if I go Control Z, that undoes it. And the redo button is to redo an action that you've undone, is Control Y. So if I go Control Y, that brings that back again. Now the good thing about undo is you can keep undoing as many changes as you've made. So if we go Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, you can see that it's taken away all of those three underlines that we actually did. So why don't you play around with bold, italics, underline, play around with using the undo and the redo command just to make sure that you understand how all of that works, and then come back to the video. Sweet. Alright, so you can also highlight parts of a paragraph by just clicking and dragging to select what you want. If we triple click on a paragraph, it selects the whole paragraph for you, which is really cool. So double click selects one word, triple click will select a whole paragraph for you, which is really nice. Sweet. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is look at playing around with colors. So if we want to make things stand out a little bit even more, so we can choose the name of our person, Anakin Skywalker, which is the title of our document. So the color is set through the color setting here, the text color setting. So if you click on that, it brings up a bunch of predefined colors that you can choose from. So if I click this, we can see that the text color changes to that. Again, highlight that again. We can choose green. We can choose purple. Sweet. So again, why don't you have a play around, try out some of the predefined colors and see what it looks like, and then come back to the video. Okay, welcome back. So you can use the predefined colors. We can also use the custom option, and that brings off a little slider thing. So if you choose that, you can go through basic shades of colors, and then by moving this around, you can choose a shade of that particular color, just to get things exactly how you want it to be if you can't get it. So if I choose that color there, click OK, it changes to that particular color. Sweet. So that's how you can use a custom color, and you can see it's added it down here as a separate color. So if I choose this one to make it this color, you can see it. We can also select our previous custom color because it stores that in the document for us, which is really cool. Right, so why don't you go through, maybe change the colors of all your headings to a different color as well, just to make them stand out a bit, just to play around with the color settings, and then come back to the video. Alright, so I'm not going to be going into the design and how documents look good, because I don't really have that many good design skills. So I'm just teaching you the technical skills in formatting a document, not the actual design skills. So I can't go into what colors go together, what things look nice or not. You'd have to find some other YouTube videos and stuff to do that. Sweet. So the next thing we're going to look at is the justification of our document. So the justification is the alignment of your paragraphs and so on. Okay. So if I choose this line here, at the moment it's left justified or left aligned, so it's aligned on the left hand edge of your document. So you can see that these are the alignment buttons up the top here. So left align is aligned to the left part. The next one is center align or center justification. So justification is the actual proper term for alignment to do with document layout. So center align or center justification will basically center that whole line for you. And if you were to type more things into the document, you can see that it still keeps it centered as you type your text in, which is really cool. Cool. So again, choose that whole thing. The next one is right align or right justification. So click on that, and as you type on this side, you can see it goes along towards the left. Okay, so everything is aligned on the right hand side. And the last one is justify or full justification. If you click on that, what that does is it makes your whole paragraph line up nicely with the left and right edges. So if you only got a single line, it doesn't really work. So you'll see it better when we choose a whole paragraph. So at the moment this is left aligned, and you'll see at the right hand edge we have gaps at the end of each line, because the next word industry doesn't fit on the line above it, and so it just leaves a gap to the right margin. Doesn't look quite so nice. So if you choose full justification or justify, you can see that looks much better, because what it does is it spaces everything out on each line to make sure that everything fills up the entire space from the left hand edge of the document to the right hand edge of the document. So it's really just what you prefer, really. Generally it's either left justification or full justification. Personally, I like the full justification, so that it's all nicely justified, but it only works when you've got a whole paragraph, right? If you've got separate lines, right? And I went to justify that. It doesn't work because it needs to be connected up together in one paragraph, right? These are two separate paragraphs because we use the enter key to drop down to the next line. So that's why that doesn't get justified. So if we were to carry on, so now you can see it's being fully justified because we're carrying on the same paragraph. If we were to drop down by putting the enter key in, then it doesn't quite work. Alright, so that's how the alignment or justification works in your documents. Again, it's just a matter of personal preference. I like the fully justified alignment personally. Cool, and the last thing is copy and paste. So if you don't know how copy and paste work, if I want to put the title technical skills in another location, I could just type it in. So maybe down the bottom I want to put it in again for some reason. Right, but then I would have to change the size of the font, change the color of the font if we had done that. So why don't we just copy what we already have? So you need to highlight what you want, go Control C to copy, or you can choose Edit and then choose Copy, right? And so Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac. Then if you go down the bottom, so you can go Control V to paste, or choose Edit, Paste. And no, you can't do that. So it looks like you need to install something to be able to paste through that menu item. So just go Control V and that will insert it in, and you can paste it as many times as you want. Now if you want to move a heading or move some text to a different location, then what you can do is instead of going copy, we can go cut. So we go Edit, Cut. So that deletes that thing, copies it for you, and then when we go down we can go Control V and then it pastes it down the bottom for us. Alright, so that's what the difference between copy and cut is. So copy will leave a copy of the thing that you're copying, cut will cut that out and remove it from where it is, and then you can paste it somewhere else later on. Alright, so that's the basics of using copy and paste. So we've gone through all the basic skills of using a word processing application. So how to enter text, how to change the font of a text, how to change the size of a text, changing the zoom settings so you can make it more comfortable to look at, changing the color of your text, using undo and redo, using the left, center, right and fully justified alignment settings, and also using cut, copy and paste. So once you've mastered those skills, you can start to create very easily any type of document that you actually want. Well, that's it for this particular recording. In the next recording or the next video, we're going to look at some more advanced, well not advanced, but more complex features of the software to help you to get really skilled at creating documents in Google Docs. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, you're welcome to give me a thumbs down. That's fine as well. If you have any comments to make about the video, if there's something that you wanted me to cover which I didn't, I'm happy to look at that as well. So leave any comments that you want, either constructive criticism or constructive feedback. That's awesome. And if you like my content, please give me a subscription, because I'll be producing more types of tech content to help people learn about technology, especially for people that are not very technology savvy. So hopefully you'll gain a lot out of my particular videos in the future. Anyway, hopefully I'll catch you in the next video.